I have a question for you, and I want you to be brutally honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had one of those moments where you decide, okay, that's it, I'm fixing my life?
Mm-hmm.
So you sign up for the intense silent retreat, or you buy the expensive package of breathwork classes, or you commit to meditating for an hour every single morning at 5 a.m. You go into it expecting that, cloud nine feeling.
Mm-hmm.
You want the ocean of inner peace.
The Zen outcome.
The Zen outcome. But instead, you come out the other side feeling arguably worse than when you started. Maybe you're suddenly super anxious, like your heart is racing for no reason, or you're emotional crying at car commercials. Or, and this is the big one, you literally cannot sleep. You are just wired, buzzing with energy, but totally exhausted.
It happens so much more often than people admit. It's actually one of the biggest dirty little secrets in the modern wellness world.
Right.
We have this tendency to run towards spirituality, looking for a shortcut. We want to escape the chaos of the news cycle, the job, the stress, so we look for a bliss button. We want superpowers.
We want the sudden enlightenment montage from a movie.
Exactly. But if we actually look at the source material, and I mean really digging into the ancient Indian energy maps and the Tibetan systems, we find something that just contradicts that entire bliss button approach.
Oh, interesting.
These systems were never designed for, blasting off into the stratosphere to escape your problems. They are actually a form of life engineering.
Life engineering. That sounds less like incense and bells and more like blueprints and hard hats.
It is entirely practical. The sources we're looking at today use a metaphor that I think is essential for anyone trying to navigate this stuff without, losing their mind. I want you to stop thinking of your body as a temple for a moment. Think of it as a house with a very specific and perhaps very old electrical system.
Okay, I'm picturing the breaker box in my basement that I'm too afraid to touch.
That's the one. Now, imagine the wiring in that house is vintage. It's a bit tangled, the insulation is fraying, it's barely handling the load of a toaster and a TV. Now, what happens if you suddenly hook that house up to a massive power plant and pump high-voltage electricity through those old wires?
You don't get faster toast, you get a house fire.
You get a fire. And that house fire is exactly what we need to talk about today. We are going to strip away the fantasy to look at the biology and mechanics of these systems. We're talking about Prana, the Nadis, Chakras, and the big scary one, Kundalini. But we were discussing them as tools for stability, not magic tricks.
So if you're listening to this and you've ever felt fried instead of enlightened, it might just be a wiring issue. Let's unpack this. We have to start with the fuel for this system. Prana. Now, I've taken yoga classes, so I always thought prana just meant breath.
Breath is the delivery vehicle, sure.
Yeah.
But prana is better understood as the bioelectrical life force that runs your entire nervous system. If you want to get scientific about it, think of it as the electricity running between your cells. It's a signal carrying the data.
It's the juice, the battery percentage.
It's the current itself. And the wild thing is, you don't need to be a mystic to feel this. You can feel the state of your prana right now. Think about the last time you were incredibly stressed, maybe a deadline was looming, or you were in a heated argument. What happens to your physical system?
Oh, everything tightens up. My breath gets shallow and gets stuck right in the top of my chest. My shoulders end up touching my ears.
And your thoughts?
Scattered, just jumping from one worst case scenario to another.
That is what the texts call scattered prana. The electricity is sparking wildly. It's inefficient. Now here's where the mistake happens. A person feels that scattered exhaustion and thinks, I'm tired, I need more energy. So they do intense hyperbreathing or stimulating practices. They try to push more voltage into a system that is already sparking.
Which just blows the fuse.
It causes anxiety, panic attacks, and burnout. The goal isn't to add power to a chaotic system. The goal is to bring the prana home, to stabilize the current before you try to increase the voltage.
Okay, so before we crank up the power, we need to look at the wires themselves. I was reading through the notes on the Nadis, which is the Sanskrit term for these energy channels, and the texts mention there are 72,000 of them. And I have to be honest, I could barely organize my email inbox. The idea of managing 72,000 energy lines is stressing me out just thinking about it.
It's overwhelming if you look at it that way. But the ancient masters were practical engineers. They said, yes, there are thousands of tributaries, but there are only 3 main cables that control your destiny. If you manage the big 3, the other 71,997 tend to sort themselves out.
Okay, I can handle 3. Let's walk through the main cables.
Imagine your spinal column. On the left side, running parallel to it, you have the Ida channel, This is the moon energy. It's feminine, cooling, and linked to the right brain creativity, intuition. Biologically, this corresponds to the parasympathetic nervous system.
The rest and digest mode. The chill cable.
The chill cable, exactly. Then on the right side, you have the Pingala channel. This is the sun energy, masculine, heating, logic, left brain. This is your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response.
So left is chill, right is action. That seems simple enough. But looking at our culture, I feel like we aren't exactly balancing these well.
We are terrible at it. This imbalance is the root of what we might call the modern disease. Most people are stuck in Pingala, the right channel, all day long.
Oh, I know this feeling. Coffee in the morning, rush to work, deadlines, doom scrolling, logic, producing, solving. The engine is redlining.
You're overheating the system, and you can't run a machine at redline forever. So what happens?
It's run out of gas.
You crash. You swing violently over to the left channel, the Ida. But because it's a crash, it doesn't feel like peaceful, creative meditation. It feels like exhaustion. It feels like depression, laziness, or just staring at the ceiling, unable to move.
That hits home. It's the Sunday doom scroll, where you're just paralyzed on the couch. So we're basically just king-ponging. We work until we burn out, then we crash until we panic about not working, and swing back.
That's the cycle most people live in, and as long as you are bouncing between the extremes of the left and right, the third channel, the most important one, remains tightly closed.
The center line, the sushumna.
The sushumna. It runs straight up the center of the spine. The engineering manuals, the texts, are very specific here. This central channel only opens when the left and right are balanced, when you aren't manic and you aren't depressive.
And what happens when the center line opens? Is this where the magic happens?
You get something better than magic. You get equanimity. It's a state where you are calm but alert. You aren't sleepy but you aren't frantic. It's high-definition clarity. This central channel is the runway for true awakening. You can't take off if you're zigzagging all over the tarmac.
I love that image. We're all trying to fly the plane while doing donuts on the runway. So once we have the wiring sorted, or at least we understand the goal of balancing the left and right, we have to talk about the power stations along that line. The chakras.
Here we go.
Now, I have to be honest, whenever I hear chakras, I picture tie-dye shirts and people analyzing the color of my aura in a way that feels a bit fluffy. It feels unscientific.
It's become a massive buzzword. But let's strip away the New Age paint and look at the function. Don't think of them as mystical spinning flowers. Think of the chakras as department heads or data centers for your life. They manage specific aspects of your existence.
Okay, department heads. Who's in the basement?
The root chakra. This is the foundation. It handles security, survival, money, your physical safety. If this department is failing, you feel constant existential fear. You feel unsafe in the world.
Right. And above that?
The sacral chakra.
Yeah.
This department manages emotions, pleasure, sexuality, and creativity. Then you move up to the solar plexus. This is your engine room. Willpower, discipline, digestion.
Then we hit the chest.
The heart chakra. The center of connection and compassion. The throat chakra, communication and truth. The third eye, insight and wisdom. And finally, the crown connection to the bigger picture, the universe.
So it's a ladder. But here's where the notes got really interesting for me. The source points out a massive construction error that modern spiritual seekers make. We're trying to build the penthouse before we've poured the concrete foundation.
It's the big head floating legs syndrome. We have people who are obsessed with opening their third eye because they want visions or they want to be psychic, but their root chakra, their financial stability, their sense of safety in their own body is absolutely crumbling.
They're trying to have a cosmic vision, but they can't pay rent, and they're having panic attacks at the grocery store.
That's the classic example. And the rule of engineering is simple. You cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. If the foundation, the root, isn't solid, the higher functions will eventually collapse. You might get a flash of insight, sure, but you won't be able to sustain it. In fact, opening the upper floors while the basement is flooded usually just leads to a psychotic break or a nervous breakdown.
Which brings us to the most dramatic concept in this whole deep dive, Kundalini. This word gets whispered with this mix of reverence and terror. You hear stories of people having Kundalini awakenings and shaking on the floor or seeing God. What is actually happening there biologically?
If we strip away the imagery of the coiled snake at the base of the spine, biologically, Kundalini is a system reset. It's a massive upgrade for the nervous system and the brain. It allows for wider perception, higher efficiency, and a massive surge in voltage.
So it's like downloading the new iOS for your nervous system.
Ideally. But imagine downloading a massive high-power operating system onto an iPhone 4 that has a cracked screen, a bad battery, and zero memory left.
It crashes.
It bricks the phone. There are so many myths here. People think if they awaken Kundalini, they will fly or have superpowers. But the reality is, if you force this energy through a system that isn't ready, those visions people talk about, often that's just emotional trash being ejected from the subconscious. It's not profound wisdom, it's just the garbage chute opening because of the pressure.
Wait, hold on. What about the physical stuff? The shaking, the screaming, the kriyas. I've seen videos of people in these workshops literally convulsing, and the guru is standing there clapping like, yes, good job. Is that good?
People wear it like a badge of honor, like, look how powerful my energy is. But from an engineering perspective, shaking and screaming are signs of resistance. It means the pipes are clogged.
Really? So the guy convulsing on the floor isn't having a mega spiritual moment, he's just having a blockage.
Think of water rushing through a fire hose. If the hose is wide and clear, the water flows silently and powerfully. You can barely hear it. But if the hose is kinked or full of gravel, it whips around, it hisses, it sprays everywhere. That shaking is the friction of high voltage hitting your blocks, your trauma, your tension. True flow is actually silent. It's still.
That is a total reframe. So if we aren't looking for fireworks and shaking, what are the true signs of success? How do I know if my wiring is actually getting upgraded?
You look at the boring data points of your daily life. Do you sleep better? Are you calmer when a crisis hits at work? Is your decision-making clearer? If you are having hallucinations of angels, but you're screaming at your spouse and you haven't slept in 3 days, that is not awakening. That is a nervous system overload.
It's a breakdown, not a breakthrough.
It's a breakdown. And this leads us to the traps. The source material lists 5 specific spiritual potholes that people fall into when they start messing with this wiring. And I guarantee you will recognize someone, or maybe yourself, in this list.
Oh, I'm ready to be called out. Let's hear them.
The first one is chasing highs. You get addicted to the bliss state of meditation. Real life, doing the laundry, paying taxes feels boring and low vibe in comparison, so you just want to escape back to the cushion.
The meditation junkie. I've been there. Don't talk to me. I'm trying to be zen.
And that leads right into the second one. Spiritual ego. This is the dangerous one. I am more awake than you. I eat cleaner than you. My vibration is higher. The most dangerous ego is the one wearing white robes because it thinks it's holy, so it's harder to spot.
Oof. Yeah, arrogance disguised as humility is the worst kind of arrogance.
Third is spiritual bypass, using concepts like letting go or it's all an illusion to avoid dealing with real pain, real trauma, or relationship issues. I'm not angry, I've transcended anger. Meanwhile, you're seething inside and getting an ulcer.
Good vibes only while the house is literally burning down.
Fourth is overbreathing. This is physically dangerous. Hyperventilating to force a trippy experience. You're basically starving the brain of oxygen to get high and calling it spiritual. It usually just causes panic attacks and destabilizes that delicate nervous system we talked about.
And the last one.
Trauma activation. Mistaking a triggered trauma response for a spiritual insight. Sometimes deep energy work pushes a button on an old wound. You feel intense fear or grief, and instead of treating it as a wound that needs care and therapy, you think it's some cosmic message. It requires discernment to know the difference.
Okay, so we've established that the wiring is delicate, the voltage is high, and there are traps everywhere. If someone is listening to this and thinking, okay, I want to do this right, I want to be stable, not fried, what do they actually do? The source gives us a protocol.
Yes. The golden rule of this engineering is stabilize before energize. Do not pump the gas until the steering wheel is fixed. The source outlines a 7-day protocol. It's a safe mode routine.
I love a good protocol. Let's break this down day by day because I feel like the details matter here. Starts with the body, right? Day 1.
Day 1 is grounding. The instruction is simple. Go barefoot on the earth. Grass, dirt, sand. And specifically, focus on making your exhale longer than your inhale.
Why the exhale?
The exhale flips the biological switch from sympathetic, which is stress, to parasympathetic, which is calm. You're telling the body, we are safe, you're discharging the static electricity.
Okay, so we're grounded. Day 2.
Day 2 is clear. You need to clear the cache. Before you sleep, write down your raw feelings. This isn't a Dear Diary about what you ate. It's what am I angry about? What am I scared of? Just get them out of your head onto paper so your subconscious doesn't have to process them all night.
It's taking out the mental trash. I like that. Day 3 is balance, which sounds tricky. How do you balance a seesaw?
You have to check your state. This requires self-awareness. If you feel sluggish, heavy, unmotivated, that's too much Ida, the left, so you need to move fast. Cardio, run, jump.
And if you're wired, anxious, ticking?
That's too much Pingala.
Okay.
So you do the opposite. Stretch slowly. Do yin yoga. You have to mechanically intervene to balance the scales. You can't just hope it happens.
That makes sense. Treat the symptom with its opposite. Day 4.
Day 4 is center. This is a visualization. Focus on the center line of the body. Just visualize that central axis. It builds inner alignment. It sounds simple, but it trains the brain to find the middle path we talked about earlier.
Now, day 5 is where I think I'd struggle. Day 5 is truth.
This is for the throat chakra. The challenge is to speak one honest sentence that you would normally suppress. It doesn't have to be mean. It's not about being a jerk. But stop people-pleasing for one day. If you don't want to go to dinner, say, I don't want to go.
That is terrifying for most of us.
Yeah.
We're so conditioned to be nice. But I guess that suppression blocks the flow.
It's a massive kink in the hose. Speaking truth unkinks it.
Okay, day 6. This is my favorite one. Day 6 is heart.
Do a small act of kindness anonymously. And the anonymous part is the engineering key here. If you buy someone coffee and then post about it on Instagram, or you tell your friend, hey, I did this nice thing, you are feeding the ego. You're looking for validation.
You're cashing in the chips immediately.
But if you do it secretly, if you pay for the toll behind you or leave a flower on a desk and no one knows it was you, the ego gets nothing. It starves the ego and feeds the soul. It's a very specific mechanism.
That is such a cool distinction. And finally, day 7.
Day 7 is review. You look at the data. Did your sleep improve? Is your mind quieter? If yes, keep going. If no, go back to day 1. Grounding is always the answer when things get weird.
It's so simple, yet so effective. It's not about standing on your head for 3 hours or moving to an ashram. It's about these micro adjustments to the system.
And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway here. Real spirituality isn't about escaping to a mountain cave. It isn't about leaving the world because the world is too heavy. It's about being still enough internally to live in the chaotic world effectively.
It's about capacity. It's about upgrading the wiring so you don't blow a fuse every time you get an annoying email.
That's the perfect way to put it. The final test of whether you are awake isn't, do I see lights, or can I feel my chakras spinning? The questions you should ask are, am I more responsible for my life? And am I kinder to the people around me?
That's the metric: kindness and responsibility.
If your energy work makes you insufferable to live with, you're doing it wrong.
I think we should put that on a billboard. If you're insufferable, you're doing it wrong.
It's the truth. The high voltage is meant to power a house that is warm, welcoming, and functional, not a house that burns down the neighborhood or thinks it's better than the other houses.
Now, the source material dropped a little teaser for a future deep dive. Apparently, the next layer of this is the history of why there are specifically 7 chakras, because some systems have 5, some have 6, and where those rainbow colors actually came from. Spoiler alert, they might not be as ancient as you think.
That is a fascinating rabbit hole. The westernization of these systems is a whole other story of translation, adaptation, and a little bit of misunderstanding.
We'll have to save that for another time. But for today, here's a provocative thought to leave you with. If your spiritual practice is making you less functional in the real world, if it's making you alienated, spacey, or judgmental, are you actually waking up, or are you just dreaming in a different way?
That is the question.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Go check your wiring, do some grounding, and we'll see you next time.